morning, everyone, and welcome back to our Tanya class. We are in chapter 24 of Tanya, which could be found on page 99 in your Tanya. In chapter 23, 22, 23, the Rebbe talked about the idea that when you do a mitzvah, there is no concealment at all, and as he calls it, no concealment of the countenance, meaning there's absolute oneness with Hashem when a Jew does a mitzvah, especially when he learns Torah. And he spoke about this at great length, and in chapter 24 he goes and explains that the opposite is when you do a sin, when you violate Hashem's will. So the truth is, last time we already spoke, I explained orally the theme of chapter 24, but now we'll learn it in the Alter Rebbe's words himself. So it's chapter 24, 99, page 99. Antithetically, 365 prohibitive commandments of the Torah, as well as the rabbinic injunction, since they are contrary to his blessed will and wisdom, and indeed the very opposite thereof. So they represent total and complete separation from his blessed unity and oneness. When a person does something against Hashem's will, that represents a complete separation from Hashem, from his unity and oneness, the same as the Sitra Achra and Klipa, which are called Avodah Zorah, idolatry, and other gods. In other words, when a person does something against Hashem's will, it's the opposite of Hashem's oneness. It's a separation from Hashem's oneness, just like the Klipa itself. The Klipa is the force that Hashem created that conceals him, that obscures him, and so on. He created this so there should be a balance between good and evil, and so on. So when a person does something against Hashem's will, he is just like the Klipa. The Klipa represents idolatry. The Klipa is called Elikim Achedim, other gods. So that a person, when he does the mitzvah, when he does a sin, he is just like them. He represents the opposite of Hashem's unity, and you'll see in a minute that he's even worse than the Klipa. He represents that he's even worse than the Klipa itself, the source of all unholiness. Let's read this inside. The same as the Sitra Achra and Klipa, which are called Avodah Zorah, idolatry, and other gods. Why? He says, because of the hiding of the countenance of the supreme will, as is explained above. What is Klipa? I explained already many times that there's the realm of holiness, there's the realm of Klipa. Within Klipa there are two realms. There's a Klipa that is altogether negative, and there's a Klipa that's somewhere in between, a neutral Klipa. But for now we'll talk about Klipa in general. Klipa in general represents that which, an entity, a reality where Hashem's inner will is concealed. He does not have an interest in creating those entities because they represent everything antithetical to him. The only reason he creates it is so that there should be a balance between good and evil. See, he needs evil in this world, but it lacks the inner vitality of Hashem's will. He does not want to be there. So therefore, how do they receive their sustenance, their existence? So to say, over the back, as we gave the example of the Alter Rebbe explained in chapter 22. So when a person does a sin, he descends to that level. He's exactly the same thing. He represents the total opposite of Hashem's unity. Hashem's unity means there's only God. But when a person sins, just like Klipa represents itself as an entity other than God, not necessarily does it deny God's existence, but it represents something other than God as well. This person that does a sin is just like that. He's violating Hashem's will, and therefore he's How do you make sure that that doesn't happen?
There's a way.
There is, huh?
Yeah, you have to go on like airplane mode or silent mode.
There's something.
Okay, whatever. We'll figure it out next time. So where were we? So a person that does the opposite of Hashem's will represents the opposite of his unity, just like the Klippa. Likewise, he says, goes further. The three garments of the nefesh. The three garments of the person who does this sin. What are the three garments? His thought, his speech, and his action. His behavior. So the three garments of the nefesh stemming from the klipas neiga. In Jews, whereas we have two souls. So we're talking now about the first soul, which is the human soul. The first soul, the human soul, derives from klipas neiga. We talked about that's the middle ground. Between holiness and utter unholiness is the middle neutral klipa. Our neshama is our nefesh habahamis, our animalistic soul or human soul, comes from this neutral klipa in heaven. That the spiritual source of our human soul is from klipas nega, what we would call a glowing klipa or the neutral klipa. Okay, the reason it's called nega because godliness could shine through. Nega means that it glows. It's a translucent klipa, meaning that it's able to be a vessel for godliness, like this table. This is klipas nega. It's neutral. It's not good, it's not bad, until you make it good. You could make this good, you bring it into Ashul, you learn Torah on it, it becomes good. So that's why it's called klipas neiga. It's a klipa, it's a shell, but neiga, holiness could shine through it. So he says, our soul, the human soul within us, comes from klipas neiga, from that realm. It's not bad, it's not good, it's neutral. And the soul has also three garments to the soul, right? Its thought, its speech, and its action. So he says, the three garments of the nefesh, this soul, stemming from klipas neiga in Jews, namely thought, speech, and action, when they are clothed in God forbid, in the 365 prohibitive commandments, when you start thinking negatively, when you start saying things you shouldn't say, when you start doing things you're not allowed to do, so when they are enclosed in the 365 prohibitive commandments of the Torah, or in the rabbinic injunctions, which the rabbis told us those that are prohibited because of rabbinic origin, which is also a sin, as also the essence of the nefesh itself. So those are the garments of the nefesh. Then, who's enclosed in those garments? The soul itself. So when you're engaged in a negative behavior or negative conversation, negative thoughts, so your garments that are actually now doing those things, and who's enclosed in those garments? Your soul. So the nefesh, the essence of the nefesh itself, which is now engaged in those negative behaviors, right? Itself, which pervades these garments. There's an entity enclosed in those garments. What is it? The human soul. You. Correct? All become actually united with the said sitra achra and klipa. You become one with the unholiness. Called avodah zarah, called idolatry. Furthermore, he says now, they become subordinate and secondary to the klipa. They become worse than the klipa, and considerably inferior and more debased than it. The Jew that does a sin lowers himself even below the level of the klipa itself. Why is that? And he'll explain. For the klipa is not clothed in a corporeal body, and it knows its master and is not rebellious against him by any independent act of sending its evil messengers, God forbid, when not commissioned by the omnipresent, blessed be He. What is klipa? Let's just define this a minute. Klipa is a spiritual reality. Right? What's klipa? Klipa is the opposite of holiness. Right? But it's still klipa in its raw state is spiritual. It's a spiritual entity that God created. Now, when a yid does a sin, right? Or any person does a sin, that klipa has now manifested itself in the physical world. Right? There's an actual person doing something against Hashem's will. So the klipa, the origin, is not corporeal. The klipa is still a spiritual entity. It's when the person does a sin that he now has taken on, klipa has manifested itself in this physical world.
You're speaking now of klipas noga.
No, once you do something bad, that's already the totally unclean klipas.
But to begin with, a klipa, okay, the absolute and pure klipa.
Yeah.
Is a spiritual entity?
Sure. Absolutely. Not a holy entity, it's a spiritual entity.
No, I understand that. But so
God created this force called klipa. What is klipa? Klipa is a shell, that which obscures Hashem. So that doesn't start down here in this physical world. That starts on a higher level. But on a higher level, because, you see, what are we saying until now? Anything that represents something that's not godly is where Hashem is concealed. But there's a very big difference the way he's concealed in a higher realm than the way he's concealed in this physical lowly realm. He's concealed in both realms, but it's not the same. Why is it not the same? When he's still spiritual, when this entity is still in the spiritual realm, God is not totally obscured. This klipa is aware of its source. This klipa knows where its origin is. It knows that God's existence is real. Never denies God's existence. It denies God's unity. You see, there's a very big difference between these two.
yeah.
Klipa doesn't deny God's existence. It denies God's unity. What is God's unity? That is only God. Klipa says, no, I'm also here. You are, but I'm also. Because before it manifests itself in the corporeal world, the physical world, this is where godliness is completely obscured. This is the only realm, this physical world, where godliness is totally concealed. This physical world represents a total concealment of God. It is up to us to reveal Him. But the natural state of this physical world is total klipa, total concealment. It's where God's countenance is completely concealed. You understand that?
No.
In other words, before
Can I
you...
ask him a question.
Sure, you can ask a question.
How is Hashem concealed in that Torah?
Not in the Torah. The Torah is where suddenly God becomes
that's my
revealed.
point. So
But
that's
that's
the
because
physical
we
world.
revealed Him in the Torah. We took a piece of ink, a piece of parchment, ink, and we wrote godly words on that parchment, and we revealed in the ink the godliness. We revealed in the parchment something godly. But that's because you did it. Before you did it, that ink represented complete
I get it.
concealment.
So you're thinking of the physical world before man has...
Before
become
man
involved.
turns it into a holy place. Yeah.
I get it.
The physical represents total concealment. There's a spiritual entity which is also klipa, which is also unholy. But it doesn't stoop to the level, it's not such concealment. At the end of the day, it's in the spiritual realm, a spiritual entity never can deny its origin, never can deny the existence of God. Because God is never so concealed. So when He's not so concealed, there's somewhat revelation. It can never deny the reality that God exists. Because He's a little bit revealed over there. It is only down here that there could be this complete denial. And who can deny it? Only us, only we. Only we deny God's existence. Does Klipa ever deny God's existence? No, they say we exist, but there's a God. We know there's a God. I'm also in existence. So what they're denying is really the unity of God, not the existence of God. When we sin down here, we're not only denying the unity of God, we're denying His existence. We're telling Him, go fly a kite. You don't exist. When you defy His existence, you're basically saying you don't exist. You're totally unimportant.
But if you go ahead and violate a commandment...
That's what we're talking about, yeah.
But that doesn't mean that God doesn't exist. Yeah, well, last week, in fact, we discussed it. God exists, but I'm better. I want to eat pork. I'm more important than you at this point.
But that means that means a denial of Him. That means a denial of Him.
Of His existence.
Yeah, basically, what is His existence? If you're saying that you're not...
No,
in other words, if you can tell God no, basically you're telling him, you're not. What does it mean to deny his existence?
That you exist independent of him. That doesn't mean he doesn't.
Independent
exist.
means that, yeah, it does mean that in a certain way it means. Let's go back to Klippa. Okay, Bilam. Yeah, there was a prophet called Bilam.
Okay.
Did Bilam deny when Bilam was a prophet, right?
Yeah.
So there was some revelation of God by him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So he never denied God's existence.
He was in touch with
Not only didn't he deny his existence, he never violated his will
Right.
when he was a prophet,
Right.
as a prophet in prophecy.
Right.
In fact, in the Torah it says that he told Balak, the people that came to him, he said, I can't violate Hashem's will.
Got it.
In other words, here's the epitome of Klippa, Bilam, the epitome of Klippa, yet even he recognized that he's unable to deny Hashem's existence. He can't violate Hashem's existence, Hashem's will. Which means, it doesn't mean that he says that there's only God and nothing else exists. I'm also here. He felt his existence, just like Klippa feels it's his own existence, but not independent of him. Not independent of God. God is the God of the gods, as they used to call him, right? I'm a God and he's also a God. He's the chief God. But they never denied his existence. They never violated his will even. The Yetzer Hara never violates Hashem's will. The Yetzer Hara is doing exactly what God told him to do, to try to entice you to do something wrong. Like I gave you the example, the Alter Rebbe gives the example. He quotes the Zohar with the harlot. You remember the example of the harlot?
Yeah.
The harlot's never doing something. He's despised by the king. She's despised by the king. And every time the king sees her, his stomach turns. But he keeps her there so that she can test the son to bring out his good character. The king hates that, this existence that's in his palace. But she's ever doing something against the king's will? No. Same thing. Klippa never violates Hashem's will. It can't violate Hashem's will. It's doing exactly what Hashem's created it to do. To be there as a shell, an obscurity, and so on and so forth. Who could violate Hashem's will? We could. We have freedom to choose. We have the real freedom to choose to tell God no. Which means, not only I'm denying your unity, when you say to God no, you're basically telling him you're not a God. If you recognize him as a God, you do what he wants. How can you not do what God wants? The fact that you're telling him I'm not doing what you want, that means you're not God. That's what it means. I mean, you could play semantics. Oh, yeah, I believe in you, but you're not. Yeah, what does it mean you believe in me? If I'm God, what do you mean you believe in me? Imagine a king comes in here. The king of this kingdom, there's a kingdom, and you're subject of the king's kingdom. And he walks into this room and tells you, sir, I need you to go do something. And you say, no, but you're the king anyway. It was a joke. That's not serious. That's not serious talk. You're not the king. That means you're not the king. If I don't have to listen to you, you're not a king. A king you listen to. So the Yid, when he does a sin, because he has freedom of choice, he doesn't only deny God's oneness. He denies his existence. Klippa doesn't deny God's existence. It does exactly what Hashem wants. It will never violate his will. You can't deny a king's will. If you believe in God, you can't deny his will. And Klippa never does. That realm called Klippa doesn't violate Hashem's will ever. We do. So Klippa Klippa opposes God's unity. When we sin, we oppose his very existence. It's a very big difference. And that's what Alter Rebbe says over here now. And that's where it's going with this. Where are we? He says that we, the Jew, when he does a sin, furthermore, it's about 10 lines from the bottom on the right column. Furthermore, they become subordinate and secondary to it, to the Klippa, and considerably inferior and more debased than it. For the Klippa is not clothed in a corporeal body. And because it's not clothed in this physical world with this complete obscurity, so therefore there's a glimmer of revelation of its source, and therefore it can never deny it. And it knows its master and is not rebellious against him by any independent act of sending its evil messengers. What does Klippa do? It sends its evil messengers to create havoc in this world. That's exactly what Hashem has created it to do. The Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, it all comes from the Klippa. It sends its evil message, but based on God's instruction to it. When not, again, and it knows its master and is not rebellious against it by any independent act of sending its evil messengers, God forbid, when not commissioned by the omnipresent. Whatever it's commissioned to do, that's what it does. It never violates Hashem's will. It gets Hashem sick. It makes Hashem upset. It makes Hashem, very unhappy. But it never. Hashem is total in control of it. It denies its oneness. Bless me. Witness Bilam's statement. What did Bilam say? I cannot go beyond the word of God. I can't, because at that moment he was a prophet. He had a glimmer of a revelation of Hashem. If there's some revelation of Hashem, there's no way you can deny it. Klippa in the spiritual realm of Klippa, is always aware of its maker, of its source, Hashem, because there's not a total obscurity over there. It's still the spiritual realm. And even though it is called Avodah Zarah, it's called idol worship, it's called idolatry, he is at least acknowledged as the God of gods. They recognize themselves as existence, as a little God, but Hashem is the chief God. They don't deny the fact that Hashem exists. What is it? It's a denial of his oneness. And the latter are utterly powerless to contravene his blessed will, for they know and apprehend that he is their life and sustenance. They can never deny that. They're part of the spiritual realm. There isn't a total concealment of Hashem over there. Since they derive their nurture from the so-called hindermost part. They receive their nurture, as we spoke, from the behind the back, right? But they're aware of it. It's not a total concealment of the. They receive their nurture from the so-called hindermost part of the blessed supreme will, which encompasses them. It is only because their sustenance and inner life source are, as it were, in exile within them, that they presume to regard themselves as gods. Because it's an exile in them, they can say that I'm also something. But total denial not, which is a denial of his unity, but not of his existence. Nevertheless, they are not so completely heretical as to deny God and to assert that he does not exist. Only they regard him as the God of gods, recognizing that their life and existence are ultimately derived and bestowed upon them from his blessed will. They know that. They're aware that their sustenance comes from Hashem's will. Therefore, they are never rebellious against his blessed will. If this be so, then the person who opposes his blessed will, literal opposition, is exceedingly inferior to and more debased than the Sitra Achra and the Klippa, called Avodah Zarah, idolatry, and strange gods. And he is completely sundered from his unity and oneness, even more than they. The Jew that sins is completely cut off Hashem's oneness, even more than the Klippa itself, as though denying his unity more radically than they, God forbid. It's not only that he's denying God's unity, he's actually denying him as period. Compare what is written in Eitz Chaim, Portal 42, end of chapter 4, that the evil which is in this material world is the dregs of the coarse klippas. Hence, the ultimate and the purifying process, and so on. The evil which is in this material world, as I said before, once klippa manifests itself, the unholy realm manifests itself in this physical, corporeal world, it becomes even worse, even more separate, and more, the concealment of Hashem is total. So the klippa in the spiritual realm is not as far away from Hashem as is the unholiness of this physical world. Let's read that again. That the evil which is in this material world is the dregs of the coarse klippas. What are dregs? In wine, you have at the bottom of the barrel, right? It's the sediment, the leftover, the junk,
What is this image? I don't get this image, do you?
In other words, you have klippa in its source, which is in the realm, the spiritual realm, And the dregs of that klipa is what ends up down here. The lowest part of that klipa ends up down in the total concealment. So it's even worse than the klipa. It's all he's saying. It's a metaphor. Hence, the ultimate in the purifying process. Where's the greatest place where you can purify? What has to be most purified? Down here.
Yeah.
That which is the dregs, the lowest realm. Okay. Therefore, are all worldly things severe and evil? This world, everything in this physical world, if it's not holy, it's the most coarse and the most difficult. It's the place and realm and entity which obscures and is the most distant from Hashem. This physical world. Because it's this world, Alter Rebbe says in a later chapter, that this is the lowest world. Why do we call it the lower? Why is this the lowest world? What does lower mean? When you say lower is in a ladder, you have many steps, and the lowest steps are closer to the ground, the higher ones are close to the top. But over here, when you're talking about God, there's no space. The spiritual realm is not higher in space than this physical realm. So what does lower mean? So he explains that lower means where God is more concealed, that's considered lower. So this is the lowest. That's why we call this the lowest world. And that's what he's saying. Therefore they are all worldly things severe and evil, and the wicked prevail in it, and so forth. Why do the wicked prevail over here?
Do they?
And a lot of times you see that, yeah. Ultimately not. Ultimately God wins the day. But for the obscurity of the concealment of God is so severe and so strong that you can go on, you can see empires and even individual people who are
times.
all the way till today.
Things going on in the
Exactly.
world.
You can see sometimes the wicked prosper and the wicked prevail. That's only because of the total concealment of Hashem. And this is a realm, a world that is very difficult because of that. But when a Yid does something absolutely antithetical to Hashem's will, he is even lower than the Klipa. Now why? Because it's now in this physical world. And the physical world represents total concealment. This explains the commentary of our sages. This explains the commentary of our sages of blessed memory on the verse, if a man's wife turns aside. There's a portion in Numbers, there's the section that discusses the Sota. Why don't you start? It discusses the mitzvah of the Sota. The Sota is a woman who's suspected of adultery. So the opening verse of that section starts, Kisiste ishte. If a person's wife will turn aside. Turn aside means she went off the beaten track and she went and started philandering and going away with other men and so on, right? So this explains to the rabbis, have a commentary, they comment on this verse the following. This explains the commentary of our sages of blessed memory on the verse, if a man's wife turns aside, that no person commits, the rabbis say, that no person commits any transgression unless a spirit of folly has entered into him. What does that mean? She explains. The meaning of this is as follows. In Hebrew, the word for turn aside is kisista, sista. Sista also has another meaning in Hebrew. It comes from the word shtus. What does shtus mean? It has the same letters. What does shtus mean? Shtuyot, foolishness, right. So the rabbis explain that the Torah says, kisiste ishte, when a woman turns aside, it's also kisiste ishte, she became folly, she became foolish. It's a foolish thing to do. You don't turn aside away from God unless a spirit of sista, a spirit of shtus, has entered you. Because a rational person would never do such a thing. Any sin. Let's read it here. That no person commits any transgression unless a spirit of folly has entered into it. For even an adulterous woman, with her frivolous nature, could have controlled her passion to drive, were it not for the spirit of folly in her, which covers, obscures, and conceals the hidden love of her divine soul, yearning to cleave to her faith in God, in His unity and oneness, and not be parted, God forbid, even at the cost of her life from his unity by idolatrous worship, God forbid. Be it only by an outward acknowledgement, without any belief at all in her heart. Let me explain what the Alter Rebbe is saying over here, and then I'll read it again inside. What did we learn in chapter 19, 18 and 19? That every Jew, by virtue of the fact that he has a hidden love for Hashem, a neshama, which sometimes is hidden, but that love is so strong that if he was ever tested with the test of faith, someone put a gun to his head or her head and said, if you don't worship this idol, if you don't convert away from Judaism, I will kill you. The most simple Jew. And it happened many, many times in history. This is not theoretical. This is reality. We have 3,000 years of history of this. With Jews, even people who were not Shabbos observant, they were not regular, they weren't tzaddikim, they weren't idealistic, passionate Jews in their religion. They weren't so, it was one thing if a religious, passionate religious Jew dies for his religion. You can explain that. But someone that's not so passionate, on a regular day, he's violating laws. He's not so frum, he's not so religious. But when it comes to that, he's ready to die at the stake. He's ready to burn at the stake. Remember I told you the story of Yossel the Ganem?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. This famous story. It's an epitome of this idea. He's not a religious Jew. He's stealing for a living. He's a thief. And he died for his Yiddishkeit, not to convert to Christianity. It's a famous story. So if you are ready to die for Hashem, not to worship an idol, which is worse? What is more painful? To give up the passion of adultery, of this woman that we're talking about, or death? Which is more painful? Death, or holding back the giving into your path, to your temptation at that moment or that day? Which is worse? Which is more painful? Death is without a doubt is more painful. Mm-hmm. Yet she's ready to die for Hashem, but she's not ready to give up this temptation for Hashem. How does that work? What's going on over here? Why is she ready over here to give up her life? And the Alter Rebbe says furthermore, he says not only is this person ready to give up his life not to worship an idol, but even imagine, you say to yourself, let me bow down to this idol now, even though inside I won't believe it, just to get this guy off my back, right? It'll be an external gesture, I don't even really believe it. I'll bow to the idol for 2 seconds and I'll walk away from me and leave me alone. I'll go right back to shul and serve God. I don't believe in this for a second. Even that a Jew is not ready to do. He'll rather die rather than even as an external gesture. He's so afraid to separate from Hashem. Yet, when this woman is tempted to go with another person and do something she's not allowed to do, she doesn't have the inner strength to hold back. It doesn't make any sense. Here you're ready to die, and here you're not ready to give up 10 minutes of pleasure. Why? How's that work? So Alter Rebbe said this is simply a spirit of folly. What's the folly here? What's the spirit of folly that entered her? What happens to this woman, or any person that sins for that matter? You know what it is? Your rational, or Yetzer Hara, we'll call it the evil inclination, you know what it does? It tells you, this is not idolatry. This is not idol worship. Idol worship you can never do. That I understand, because that severs you from God. Everyone understands that the minute you converted away from God and became some other religion, you're done. That severs you. A Jew is not capable of doing that. He'll go to his death rather than sever. But the Yetzer Hara tells the Jew, adultery, it doesn't sever you from Hashem. It severs you from your husband, maybe. It severs you from your character. Maybe you're not a good. Maybe it compromises your character. Does it sever you from Hashem? That means you're not Jewish anymore. Or if you eat something that's not kosher, you're not Jewish anymore. That amounts to idol worship. It's not the same thing. The Yetzer Hara tells you that's not the same thing. The rabbis say that's a spirit of folly, but it's a silliness. It's total mishigas, because it does sever you. When you do a sin, we learned over here, it's total disconnection from Hashem. You're not only denying His unity, you're denying His very existence. It's idol worship. It amounts to idol worship. It's the same thing. So let's read it in Alter Rebbe's words now. This explains the commentary of our sages of blessed memory on the verse, if a man's wife turns aside, so they comment and say that no person commits any transgression unless a spirit of folly has entered into him. For even an adulterous woman, with her frivolous nature, this simple, frivolous woman, could have controlled her passionate drive were it not for the spirit of folly in her, which covers, obscures, and conceals the hidden love of her divine soul, yearning to cleave to her faith in God, in His unity and oneness. That's the nature of the neshama that a Jew has. And not to be parted, God forbid, even at the cost of her life, from His unity by idolatrous worship, God forbid, be it only by an outward acknowledgement, without any belief in it at all in her heart. Yet she's ready to die for that. So over here, suddenly she's ready to give up. Why is she ready to sin and deny God's existence? Surely she could subdue the temptation and lust of adultery, which is lighter suffering than death. May God protect us. But the distinction she makes between the interdict against adultery and that against bowing to an idol is also but a spirit of folly. She makes a difference in her mind. This is not adultery. This is not idolatry. That interdiction, that differentiation that she makes in her mind is pure nonsense. It's folly. It's a spirit of folly stemming from the klipa which envelops the divine soul up to, but not including its faculty of chokhmah, because of the divine light that is closed in that faculty as mentioned above. What happens over here is we learned in chapter 18 what happens when a Jew is confronted with the test that we spoke before to worship an idol, or to convert to Christianity in the days of the Inquisition, right? The Jews were burnt at the stake. They would never do it. He said, I know, but a lot didn't.
No, a lot didn't.
And they were ready to go to their death, even non-idealistic Jews. What happens? Because of that hidden love, that spark of the neshama that we have, it's incapable of separating from God. It's incapable. Where is that spark? Where's the neshama enclosed or present in the Jew's body, in the Jew's life, in the Jew's soul? Where?
In the brain.
In chokhmah, in the chokhmah of the nefesh. The soul has 10 faculties. We explained this: chokhmah, bina, das, all the 10 faculties. Intellect, emotions, divided into 10. But where is the neshama present where is the neshama present in the Jew? Where does it begin its presence and then spread? In chokhmah shebenefesh. And that's highest level of the soul, of the person. The Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, or the spirit of folly, as he calls it here, can obscure, can confuse every aspect of the Jewish neshama, except chokhmah. Chokhmah it can't confuse. Once chokhmah is touched, once that's tampered with, once you reveal chokhmah shebenefesh, you can't get a Jew to do anything against Hashem. No way. The problem is it's concealed. But when do you reveal that chokhmah shebenefesh? When you push it against the wall. When you push the Jew against the wall, and you put a gun to his head and say, you have to worship the idol. Over here you shook him to the core. His very existence of his connection to Hashem is now challenged. He will never sever his relationship with Hashem. To cite an example, I'll cite an example so that we can understand. I'll use parents and children as an example because we're the child of Hashem. So I'll use the same idea. On a regular day, What's your relationship with your child? How is your relationship governed? A set of rules. You tell your child, you go to school, you'll do well, you'll get rewarded. You do bad, you'll get punished. It's a basic, normal situation. Those are the lower levels of your relationship with your child. But there are times when behavior and how good he's doing in school and how good he's doing in general doesn't play much of a role in the relationship. For example, when you're having a simcha in the family, marrying off a child. What happens when you marry off a child? The whole family gets together. It's a very exciting moment. And then what happens was when the music starts playing and the bride and the groom come in and everyone's dancing, right? There's a circle of the family, everyone's holding hands and dancing. And you have 5 children. Some of them are good children, are giving you a lot of nachas, some of them are not. When you're dancing in that circle, in that high moment where it's just you and your kids, are you thinking, wait a minute, the kid that got an F in this class, you don't hold my hand, you hold his hand, and I'll hold the A student. That doesn't happen. Not at a wedding. It doesn't happen. Why? What happens at a wedding? What happens in a moment of pure joy? It's not only, what does happy mean? There's a certain level of your soul, of your connection with your children. You reach deeper. It's a much deeper level. It's a level that transcends the rule level, the area where the rules play a role. On a regular day, on a regular Wednesday, you're functioning as a family on a lower plane. There's a give and take, there's checks and balances, you have to earn, Yom Kippur. What's Yom Kippur? We come to Hashem, and we're all clean white, right? We're all cleansed from our sin. Why? Because there's a relationship between parents and children that supersede the rules. You're my child even though you violated my rule. Well, I'll give you a deeper example, which is going to come from it'll be a negative situation, but you'll understand it better. You get a call one day, or let's present the picture. You have a child that's giving you nothing but headaches. God forbid, we should never know of it. You have another child that's giving you nothing but nachas. Nothing but nachas. He's the loveliest child ever. It's every parent's dream. They're driving in a car, both of them. And they get into a terrible, terrible accident. They're both airlifted to the trauma center, and they're both in critical conditions, unconscious in a coma. You're called, you have to come to the hospital. Did it even enter your mind for a second? This is an F student, this is an A student. It's not that, it doesn't even enter. You know why? Because at that moment, the core essence of this relationship is challenged. It's my son, I may lose my child. You're thinking about his behavior. It doesn't play a role at all. It's not that you brushed it aside. You didn't have to brush anything aside. It didn't even occur to you at that moment that this one is giving you nachas, this one's that. These are my children. These are my essence. That's all I care about right now. They need to live. That's chacham shebenefesh. That's chacham shebenefesh. A mother that sees her child got run over by a car. Do you know they say that sometimes they can lift up a car and pull that child out? I've read that. I don't know how. I've never seen it.
Read accounts of that.
I've never seen it, but I believe it's true. They suddenly muster up the strength that no one can ever imagine. They're thinking about, is he good? Is he giving me nachas? Shall I lift up that car? Those are the silly thoughts. Those thoughts don't enter your mind at that moment. Why? Because the core essence of your relationship with your child is now at stake. This is my child. He's in danger. I must save him. When a Jew is challenged with idolatry, chachma shebenefesh is touched. The essence of the relationship is now touched. But if it's not idolatry, if your child is not under the car, he's fine, more or less, everything is there. He's making you trouble. So you get angry at him. You're going to punish him. Your other child, you're going to reward. Because you're on a lower plane in the relationship. It's not the essence. The essence of your relationship is not always revealed like that. You're running out. You're functioning from a lower plane, where your actions do make a difference in my relationship with you. That's all year round. Yom Kippur is when we reach a level, the essence of Hashem and the essence of the Jew is revealed, and therefore everything gets cleaned away. It's all good. So when a Yid wakes up in the morning, he's lazy to put on film. Right? Lazy to put on film. He goes through a non-kosher restaurant, he's tempted to go, and he goes in and he buys himself a whatever, not kosher food. You know that you're not supposed to do that. What happens is, the Yetzer Hara, the left side, right, the unholy, that animalistic side of you, is able to obscure the neshama in you and tell you it's okay, I can go into the restaurant and eat and it's fine. Nothing's going to happen. I'm still Jewish. Still Jewish. But the Yetzer Hara can never obscure Chachma Shebenefesh. It can never obscure that essence. It's just impossible. It can never. You know, a lot of parents, they're not good parents. On a daily basis, they're not there for their children. They're on their phones, they're wasting their time, they're busy with themselves, they neglect their children. This is common. We know this. But to go to that nasty parent who on a daily basis is not doing what she has to do for her children, he's not doing what he should do. When he gets a call, your kid is in the hospital, critical condition, he throws the phone down, he's in the hospital, it's only his child. Because what happens on a regular day? You're on your phone, it's going to be fine. My child is going to be fine even if I spend another half hour on the phone, even though he really needs you. But your folly begins to obscure your senses and say, it's okay, I'm still a good father. I'm still a father, he's going to be fine. That's what happens. That's exactly what happens to the Jew. When he's tempted with not putting on film or some other sin, it's okay. I'm still one. My God is okay with me. I'll make a right, or even you think it's not so terrible. But when you're told you have to bow to an idol, you have to convert you have to give up your religion completely. Over here, you touched Chochmah, you touched the essence. There, the folly can never obscure that essence. The folly can obscure up to the essence. Everything else, but not the essence. The Alter Rebbe is going to say over here, why is it a spirit of folly? Because why are you ready to die for not to worship an idol? Because you understand that this is severing me from God. I'm not ready to be severed from God. That a Jew is not capable of doing. It's like the father. I can't sever myself from my child. If he's in the hospital, that's where I'm going to be. There's no phone. There's no nothing. There's no movie. My favorite movie, my vacation, all comes to a halt when your child is in trouble. Our relationship with God is in trouble to that degree that even we know our Chachma Shebenefesh is tampered with. We leave everything alone, and it's only God at that moment. We have to be. Well, I'll die for Him. But if it's not challenged to that degree, well, our spirit of folly will confuse us, and say you can go and commit adultery, and no one's gonna. The world didn't come to an end. It's okay. I'm still a Jew. I can eat pork, and I'm still a Jew. I'm still okay. It's not a total severing from God. We think that, but what's the truth? The truth is that every sin we do severs you from Hashem, as we just read over here. You're worse than the klipa itself. You're denying His very existence, like idol worship. So why are you ready to die, but you're not ready to give up a stupid sandwich? This is folly. This is pure folly. It really doesn't make any sense. The problem is that we think that eating the sandwich is not idolatry. But the truth is it is. It's paramount to idolatry. You understand what he's saying here? How do we know it's paramount to idolatry? That's what he started explaining from chapter 20 till here. What is idolatry? The denial of God's oneness. That's one form of idolatry. That's klipa. They deny His oneness. But even worse is when you deny his very existence. You're not my king. I can do what I want. And only us down here have that ability. It's worse than Klippa. We have the power to tell God no. Means you're not a king. You're not God. That's the worst. That's idolatry. What is it? What's idolatry? You don't exist. This also is basically saying you don't exist. It's the same thing. So why over here you're ready to undergo such torture and be burnt at the stake, and over here you're not ready to give up a sandwich? It's incredibly stupid. But that's what happened. That's what our Yetzer Hara does to us. It confuses our senses. It confuses our senses. It's just like the father and the mother who are busy with their phone all day long. They're harming their child. They're killing their child. But they don't see it that way. It's a spirit of folly that enters them. I'll work it out later. He's okay, he doesn't need me right now. He needs you desperately right now. But the spirit of folly enters you. But when he's on his deathbed, there's no spirit of folly. No one can be fooled at that moment. You can be fooled when he's breathing and talking, it's all good, and he just wants your attention. You can be fooled, even though that's just as bad. But we don't see it that way. And that's what's happened. That happens to the Jew as well with the mitzvahs. We see idol worship as an impossible option, but kosher is not so terrible. Now, the Rebbe over here is explaining that's all the same. It's all idol worship. There's only one God. That's the only real existence. The minute you separate it from that reality, you're an idol worshiper. And its separation can be through violating this, what you think is a small infraction. It's all the same. Let's finish reading it in his words and we'll stop at this point. Where are we? We're 6 lines from the bottom on the right column on page 101. But, you see it? Second. But the distinction she makes between the interdict against adultery and that against bowing to an idol is also but a spirit of folly stemming from the klipa which envelops the divine soul up to, but not including its faculty of chachma. That could never be obscured by the animal soul. Because of the divine light that is clothed in that faculty over there, this Hashem is present in a real way, and therefore nothing can obscure it. The problem is it's concealed. When you shake it up and you put a gun to it and you say you must give up God, then Chachma wakes up, and once Chachma wakes up, you can't move. Then the Jew is going to his death rather than separated from God, as mentioned above. Let's read a few more lines. The real truth, however, is that even in the case of a minor sin, the offender transgresses against the blessed supreme will and is completely sundered from his blessed unity and oneness even more than the Sitra Achra and the Klippa called strange gods and idolatry. And then all things that are derived therefrom in this world. Unclean animal, you become worse than everything. You become the lowest of the lowest. So why would you do that? Because the spirit of folly. It's simply a spirit of folly that talks us in that this is not the end of the world. But it is. We'll continue next week.